Diseases, pestilences, plagues, and natural disasters have roamed the face of the earth since time immemorial. Many a times, man is never spared alongside the biosphere, which is part and parcel of. Diseases erupt and disappear among men, sweeping them without regard to status. The weak and the strong fall with pain and suffering alike. However, nature has always balanced, and random select men stand the test of time. Below are the main pandemics in history that you would be eager to hear about. Number 11, the Antonine Plague, 165 AD to 190 AD. This is also called the Plague of Galen, named after the physician who first described it. The plague is associated with army troops who brought it to the Roman Empire from expeditions in the east. Through the decade that the pandemic traversed the Roman Empire and some other parts of Europe, the total deaths are estimated at 5 million human beings. The worst deaths recorded in a single day were over 2,000 humans in Rome alone. The disease also severely diminished the Roman army. The main symptoms of the pandemic were fever, diarrhea, and pharyngitis. Number 10, the Justinian Plague, 541 AD to 549 AD. This disease prevailed in the whole region extending from the Mediterranean basin, Europe, and the Near East, again severely afflicting the Roman Empire. The pandemic has been considered as the first major pandemic on Earth, which in its two-century prevalence killed an estimated 100 million people, half of Europe's population at the time. History also provides that it brought with it an apocalyptic air, with many victims and survivors converting to Christianity. The plague's causative bacterium, Yersinia pestis, is also associated with the bubonic plague, discussed hereafter. Number 9. Leprosy, the Middle Ages. This is a bacterial infection that causes lesions on skin and also nervous damage. The disease mostly ran in families and was perceived to be God's punishment on man. The disease is currently known as the Hansen's disease, and it is manageable, requiring specialized treatment with antibiotics. Number 8. The Black Death, 1400 AD. The plague reportedly started in Asia, moving westwards and arriving in Europe in 1347 AD. The causative agent is the bacteria Yersinia pestis, the same bacteria causing the Justinian Plague. The plague is one of the world's major pandemics, which claimed the lives of a believed 200 million human beings. The disease is believed to have been spread by human fleas, and its intensity is believed to have been accelerated by severe famine that swept across Europe during the 13th and 14th centuries. The disease quelled at around 1800 AD. This disease demolished and shattered political systems, leaving European empires flattened and weakened. Number 7. The Great Plague of London, 1667 AD. London, the global leader in arts, commerce, education, fashion, entertainment, influence, the amazing traits which are almost inexhaustible. However, did you know that in 1667, the bubonic plague killed 20% of London's population? Around a similar time, a fire broke out, the Great Fire of London, which logical critics ascertain killed thousands of poor Londoners who could not escape the blaze. Number 6. The Spanish Flu, 1918. This was an influenza pandemic that ravaged through the USA and parts of Europe in 1918 and 1919. The causative virus was the H1N1 virus with the genes of avian origin. The major symptoms of the influenza were headaches, aching muscles, fever, chills, sweats, sore throat, dry persistent coughs, weakness, and congestion of airways. It is estimated that 500 million, that is a third of the world's population at the time, succumbed to the pandemic. 50 million humans died from the Spanish flu, with the USA losing over 650,000 people to the flu. Misinformation and information suppression on the virus led to the major widespread impact of the influenza. Number 5. HIV and AIDS. This pandemic was first realized in 1981 in the USA among gay communities. This condition weakens a human's body's immunity, and the victim succumbs to opportunistic diseases such as tuberculosis. This condition is caused by the human immunodeficiency virus, HIV, which leads to acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, AIDS. The pandemic is everywhere on Earth and can be contracted by the following major ways: having unprotected sex with an infected partner, mother-to-child during breastfeeding and childbirth, sharing skin-piercing items or needles with infected people. HIV and AIDS weaken the society, robbing it of manpower and vibrancy. Since 1981, 76 million people have been infected with the virus, with 35 million dying from the pandemic. HIV and AIDS continues to be a reality in our current world, but however, it is manageable by use of antiretroviral drugs, or the ARVs, alongside a healthy diet and active lifestyle. Whereas pandemics rise and fall, HIV and AIDS has held its ground. It is prudent for each of us to take measures to avoid contracting the disease by abstaining from sexual activities, avoiding multiple sex partners, having protected sex, and for the mother-to-child cases, women are encouraged to deliver in hospitals where interventions are possible to prevent the child from contracting the disease. Then avoid drug abuse. Drug abuse weakens a human's judgment or a consumer's judgment, exposing them to risk of rape or irresponsible sexual behavior. Lastly on this, people living with HIV and AIDS should be treated with dignity. HIV is not a death sentence, it is manageable. Number 4. The Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome 2003. The SARS first appeared in China in 2003 with cats and bats as major vectors. The disease spread very fast to the outer world. The disease is caused by the SARS coronavirus spreading through the respiratory droplets from coughs, sneezes, and talking. One can contaminate hands by touching knobs, handles, and surfaces in public areas. SARS infected a total of 8,096 humans with 774 fatalities. No cure has been found for the virus or a vaccine. However, isolation has worked to restrain the virus. China was heavily criticized for trying to conceal information about the outbreak. By the year 2004, the disease had been put under control, and no cases have erupted ever since. However, it is a novel opportunity for the global health custodians to improve responses to pandemics. Number 3. Ebola virus disease (EVD), 1976 to 2016. This disease is characterized by a fever, muscular pain, sore throat, headaches, vomiting, diarrhea, and rash. There is a subsequent liver and kidney failure, at the point which the victim bleeds internally and externally. Up to 90% of those who get infected die, usually within 16 days after the onset of symptoms. Ebola spreads through direct contact with body fluids such as blood of the infected humans or animals, semen, and breast milk of victims, as well as contact with contaminated items. The natural vectors of EVD are the fruit bats. Ebola virus was first discovered in 1976 at Nzara, a town in southern Sudan, and elsewhere in the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC. For the period between 1976 and 2012, there have been 2,387 cases and 1,590 deaths. The largest outbreak of Ebola virus occurred from 2013 to 2016 in West Africa, with 28,646 cases and 11,323 deaths. There have been no major outbreaks since then. However, EVD continues to be a major world health emergency, according to the World Health Organization. Number 2. Zika Virus, 2016. Zika virus was first isolated at Zika in Uganda in 1947 and named in 1948. The virus spreads variously to the Southeast Asia, Pacific Islands, and later in Brazil. The vectors of this virus are mosquitoes, which infect people on biting them. Among humans, Zika can spread from mother to child or mother to fetus before birth, as well as through sex. However, it is not known for how long the virus stays in vaginal fluid, semen, blood, and urine. Exposure in the laboratory and blood transfusion are also viable avenues which can transmit the Zika virus. The symptoms of Zika virus are fever, joint pains, rash, and red eyes. The symptoms disappear shortly after appearance. The aftermath of contracting Zika virus, especially in pregnant women, is microcephaly, or severe brain malformations and other birth defects. There is no known cure for the Zika virus, but paracetamol is known to alleviate the condition. Number 1. Coronavirus Disease 2019 COVID-19. The coronavirus disease 2019 is an infectious disease caused by the SARS-CoV-2. It was first identified in Hubei province in China in December 2019. This is an ongoing pandemic with the following major headlines. Prevalence. Coronavirus has spread in almost all parts of the inhabited world, infecting a total of 20.9 million humans. 12.8 million have recovered and over 700,000 have died. The top hit countries in the world are USA at over 5.3 million cases, Brazil at over 3.2 million cases, and India at over 2.4 million cases. The major symptoms of coronavirus are pneumonia, viral sepsis, acute respiratory distress or shortness of breath, lung and kidney failure, sore throat, dry coughs, fatigue, loss of sense of smell or taste. Transmission of coronavirus is by contact with the respiratory droplets of infected individuals. The incubation of this pandemic or this virus is 14 days after exposure. The standard diagnosis test for coronavirus is the real-time reverse transcription polymerase chain reaction and CT imaging of the chest. Prevention of infection. Wash hands with soapy water. Maintain physical distance from others. Isolation and quarantine of the infected. Facial covering using masks, scarves, and bandanas. COVID-19 has no known cure and neither does it have a vaccine. It can only be managed by treating symptoms, supportive care, and isolation. The economic and social impact of COVID-19 is analyzed as follows. COVID-19 has rendered millions across the world jobless. Cities have been deserted and businesses mad. Many families are facing the risk of starvation due to loss of income and current developments such as the explosion in the port section of Beirut in Lebanon, where an ammonium nitrate explosion blew out a section of the city, severing the grain silos. Psychological stress has elevated and people are living in fear of uncertain future developments. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe to my channel and click on the notification button for more insight into the developing social phenomena. In the discussion section, I have shared a link to another video on how to keep safe from COVID-19 in 4 simple steps. Bye.